And start recording. And so now by popular demand, yes, the very famous Vibecoding session. So yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I know there's people trickling in, but we all know what it's about. It's called Part Keep of One, exploring different tier of solo app development with AI. And of course, that's a very fancy way of saying I've been vibe coding and have a few things to say about it. So let's get started. In case you've been hearing that today and you're not quite sure what it is, we will talk about what vibe coding is, how does it change entrepreneurship, and what does it look like what does it take to become an AI assisted entrepreneur? Why not? A little bit about me. I've been building products in different capacities for the past 15 years in different industries, ed tech, life sciences, even e-commerce as well. And today, as I mentioned during the channel, I'm the founder of Reneida Product Lab, where I'm helping startups get started and find out where the money is. Because as we all know, when you have a digital-based startup, it's not just about the technology. It is really about the business model. It's about pricing. It's about finding out who you're building for. So really understanding who your users are and building the product and functionality, the user journey according to that, to retain more people, make sure that they come back, they stay with you, and that they spend money on your app, or at least there's money coming in somewhere, because this stuff, it's expensive, right? All right, so with that, I'm gonna try to transport you back to the first product you built. Are all builders here, you probably have a sense of when that was in your life. It could have been a digital product, or maybe it was a real life, kind of tangible product. That was my case. I think looking back, I was looking back at the first product I built, and what actually came to mind was that when I was about 9 years old, I used to go to summer camp every year in Puerto Rico, in the mountains, in the rainforest of Puerto Rico. Very interesting. This is actually a real life picture of the place I used to go. And you see that nice little sidewalk there, rustic. That wasn't even there when I was attending. It was mud. So when we used to sleep in one of the cabins, and the one thing you see in the back is pretty much the bathrooms, the showers. And when I used to attend, that was kind of a mess. It was always kind of rainy, and you wanted to go shower, you were carrying your stuff in like regular luggage, and it would get all wet. Then you went to the showers, there's a bunch of girls, showering at the same time, things splattering, everything would end up either wet or in the mud, you were carrying it. And when I went back after that first year, I told my mom, like, I need luggage that's made for this. And back there in Puerto Rico, I mean, now in Amazon, Team or whatever it is, you could probably get whatever you imagine. But back then, all the luggage was like nicely, made for airports and things like that. So I was like, can I design something that is made to be waterproof, that I can easily carry, I can hang in my showers when I go to camp? So I drew it out, and my poor mom had to use her like little Singer sewing machine to do this, to use this material that was waterproof and like plastic, and we almost burned it. She did, because I still don't know how to sew. So, so I needed her to bring this idea to life. I couldn't do it myself. I drew it up, I thought about it. When I came back from camp, it was such a hit over there. Everyone was like, "Oh, why did you get that? I want one." I went, "My mom, people want this." And she was like, "I'm not building." I built it for you. That's about it. So I couldn't get my co-founder on board with scaling the operation when I was 9 years old. But it reminds me of how we need each other. Many times we have one skill, we have one idea. We don't have the ability to execute it, but we have the ability to execute it, and we're not perhaps the idea people or the design people. So how does that translate to today? So up to this point, when you wanted to create an app, it took an idea, conceptualization, a monetization model, so that you could make some money, and somebody to build it. And there's some great unicorns out there that had it all. They could do the whole thing. But for most of us, we were one or the other. I felt like that many times when I create apps on my own. And in fact, I came into product management in a way because I failed at going through this process of creating an app for a business that I wanted. And I was like, no, there's got to be something to it. Like, I'm doing this wrong. There's more to it. And that kind of got me into the field that I'm in now. So how is that changing with Vibecoding? First, what is Vibecoding? So Vibecoding is AI-assisted development. It is the use of AI agents. Some of them are very specialized to just coding. Some of them are end-to-end. They prototype, they do front-end, and they help you basically put together an app based on outcomes, based on prompts that said, I want an app that does this. So you are not as committed in that scenario to the perhaps thinking about the architecture or thinking about the engineering principles or the data model. You're just pretty much feeding outcomes to this agent and seeing them come to life, which feels like magic. It is amazing, but we're going to see really where sort of the challenges lie. So the question is, how far can I go? Can I make my ideas come to life with Vibecoding? Can I start my own company and just serve this app to people, show it, get it in the hands of the public, and I don't need anyone anymore. It's just me behind the screen with my AI friends. So there's going to be there has been a lot of talk about that. We have Ahmad Prasad, I'm probably butchering his name, but he's the CEO of Replit, and he recently posted something that is pretty, this is a hot take. I no longer think you should learn to code, he said. Instead, you should learn to think. We also have Silicon Valley CEO saying that they can get with 10 engineers what used to take 100 engineers. So is there some truth to this? Is this real, at least today? This got me thinking about how last year we had actually the same conference, the same summit, last exactly a year ago. And in my presentation back then, my topic was around the impact of AI on my profession, which is product management. And what would happen, and one of my last slides, sort of like my concluding slides, was that there was going to be less need for product management at the very early stage, like low complexity product level. So if you thought about products that were really simple, like an AI app that just shows you who's near versus an app that shows you who's near versus an app that controls your house. Like there's a wide level of complexity between those, right? And in many ways, the role of the product manager has been for years to decrease the risk of building the wrong thing. Like you need a product manager because if you build something, an app, and it completely flops, there goes 10,000, 20,000, it adds up. So in many ways, you needed that product manager to decrease the risk. But as the value of that risk decreases because building apps is less expensive than what it used to be, there's also then the value of having a product manager at that level is also lower. So we had said that there was still going to be a need for product managers, but more on the complex as companies scaled, as products got more complex, more developed, there was more functionality added in. But what we've seen over the past year is that it's not just product managers, it's actually everyone. It's designers, it's the actual entire product team. There is less of a value, perhaps, at the lower levels of complexity, very simple, minimal apps, and perhaps where all the talent is going to go, whether you're a designer, product manager, engineer, is to products that are more complex, that are problems that are harder to crack. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We can allow regular people to create apps that solve everyday problems for them, and allow people who are, professionals to come in once things are, in the high end of it. So does that mean I'm a developer now? Kind of like Pinocchio. I like this movie Pinocchio. I like the old school version. and we all know Pinocchio from like the lion and all that stuff, but a big part of it is like this boy, he thinks, he's really a wooden doll. And he thinks like, am I a real boy? Can I do all the things that real humans do? So am I a real developer now? Like, starting to vibe code and maybe I can do this now, So in this talk, I'm gonna put that to the test. We're gonna talk about what my experience was with it. And perhaps hear from you at the end. Some of you have been vibe coding, and we'll have a nice little discussion about that. So how did I get started? Well, I looked at my options. There's so many vibe coding tools right now to choose from. And of course, there's other than Replit, there's Space 44, there's Noah, Zero, you name it. And some are made for perhaps people that need a little bit less help. Like Cursor is very, very popular, for example, with people who already have a development background, and there's some nice integration with design tools like Figma, so they can have more control over the UI. And there's some that, like Replit, is very targeted to people that are non-technical. It's getting very popular with product managers like me, because precisely it does that sort of fast prototyping. It allows for that fast prototyping work. So I went with Replit because of that, because the CEO was so arrogant about it. So like, no code, so like, let's put him to the test. Why not? So I went with Replit. So with that caveat, a lot of things that you're going to see in this presentation are going to be very oriented towards Replit. You may have a different experience with Loadable. You may have a different experience with another tool, because they're all different, they all have their strengths, and perhaps that is a conversation for a future presentation. It's like kind of comparing them and seeing apples to apples. But for now, we're just going to focus on Replit. And what I did, because last year, my presentation, I had this like conceptual app that I was putting to the test. I was doing some discovery using AI tools on a hypothetical app. If I were to build a simple consumer-facing app that is all about alerting other parents about playdate plans. And it turned out that a lot of people had an experience that was similar to mine. It's kind of like always just WhatsApp groups and where are you going? I don't know where I'm going, or what is it? And there was all sorts of problems that were associated with trying to coordinate real life connection experiences with parents of young children and finding out where to go. So I said, for the sake of continuity of that conversation from last year, let's take that idea and see if, hey, if I wanted to build that, it's not a real business, but if I wanted to build that, what would that look like? So I decided to come up with an app that I call Bambino, from beaming. Bambino, of course, because it's for kids. And I created my persona, which would be moms of children between 1 and 13, which is like no offense to dads. Dads also coordinate playdates sometimes, but you need to have like a really defined persona. That's actually something that will be helpful to you if you're building an app. Is I know there's going to be marginal edge cases, but try to find someone that you know that is concrete. If you can give it a name. In fact, my name in my mind is Stacy, because I have a friend that's named Stacy, and she's the one that's always coordinating the play dates. So in my mind, I'm building for Stacy. Think about that when you're building your app. Like, who am I? Am I doing this for my Uncle Joe? Am I doing this for? And that helps you make it more concrete. It's not for everyone, but then you just start building things that will be valuable for this person. And she needs to coordinate play dates. She needs to. She has a handful of contacts of families that she trusts. She wants children to connect with other kids in person. And she wants to take them to indoor parks, outdoor parks, other public spaces. So they want the kids to get together. I define the problem. So this is all part of sort of the problem of the product discovery process. Putting like this known as a problem opportunity tree. And it has been popularized a lot by Teresa Torres. If anyone is interested in following her online, she has way more complex trees than this one, but this is sort of to show you what we're really doing, which is to say, okay, the top problem is coordinating play dates is difficult, but why is it difficult? And we actually branch it out into problems. Okay, so people having yearly commitment, maybe you said yes to a play date, 2 weeks ago, and today you woke up and you're like, nah, I don't want to do it. So can we do something that is more real time? Reaching out to families one by one, text by text, is difficult. There's no way of doing that efficiently. And then finding a place to meet or a good time is time consuming. So doing the search, doing the discovery at that time. Last year it turned out that this was the biggest problem of the three, just finding a place to meet. Okay, so I went with that idea. I went to Replit and I did my first attempt. Yay! I gave it a prompt, and which you can see at the top there, it says, because Replit just welcomes you and said, what do you want to build? Tell me, give me a prompt. And you're like, oh my goodness. It says, I want an app that allows parents of young children to notify their trusted families when they're playing somewhere in the area. And Replit went nuts with that idea. Like it's, it's amazing. It just takes from that prompt and it started building stuff. It's interesting. It came up with some map. It gave it a name that wasn't my name. It just named it like house because like, oh, why not? It gets to start giving me a profile, and you can see there's some kind of notifications, and it's just going wild. It's just taking the idea and running with it. Of course, that's cool, but it also creates other problems, and as we will see. One of the most common was like the redundancy. You start seeing buttons that go nowhere. You start seeing functionality that you didn't ask for. In this case, you're seeing, if you click on the profile there, you get this menu that has profile, management, family, and settings, but they're pretty much the same page, so you really don't need that. So it's really going wild.
You went rogue.
He's going rogue.
Somebody told me that a long time ago. You're going rogue.
Yes.
Let's put your management. I'm like, okay,
and that's
fine.
the thing that we're it's a little too eager, right? Like that's not really how we build products, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It created entities that, cool, but it started to create entities like circles, which it's a good idea, but it really extrapolates. It really brings, the concept of the minimum viable product, of doing just the absolute minimum that you need to prove your hypothesis of whether this is a good business or not. And it's giving you an app that's bloated, that with things that are just sort of making it harder for you to test that hypothesis.
A little question.
Yeah.
You gave it a pretty generic statement, right?
Yeah.
Front. Have you given it more rails? Will it be more control?
You're in the right track. So you gave me circles, and first I'm going to talk about the good things. So good things that I observed is the transparency. So it did show you in the panel what it was doing, like the entities that it was creating, the things that it was connecting. So if you are curious about development, if you want to learn more about development, it's actually a really nice tool because it tells you kind of the thinking process is going over. So I thought that was very good. It is very proactive at fixing issues. I don't know if you can read it up, you can see that it's actually fixing some things as it goes. It gives you testing points, so it gives you opportunities to say, test it now to see if this works. And then you can say, yeah, it works, so let's do the next thing and the next, and iterate. But it's also very hyperactive. Like it wants to add more features all the time. And remember what I said about the minimal viable product? You need to have, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur and you wanna create your app, you have to be very narrow about what is that you're testing. And here you have that. I'm not even done with the basic functionality and it's already asking me if I wanna add achievement badges to, to this app. You know? It's like it wants to gamify the thing and can we add, do you want to add like push notifications and things like that?
Is that the new version? It just graduated. Come on, it's trying to show everybody else.
But the core functionality still doesn't work, right? So as you can see, there is sort of like, there's an opportunity for people who are very new to building products to get carried away and to just add, and get into this death loops. Like I've been building products for 15 years and I got into a death loop. Like I know, what you mentioned. And for me, the issue was that the main call to action, which is what I wanted to, one of the main things that you want to test is what's your main call to action? What's your main sort of North Star event that you want to test that people are doing when you're into the app? For me, it was creating a play page. So I wanted that call to action to be prominent at the top, create a play date, but look where it was.
Oh, God.
It was just a little cross, orange, and I kept trying to give it prompts to move that. Hey, can you move it, move it, and it kept like just looping. It got into this death loop where it wouldn't move it wouldn't change it to say create play date, or it sort of moved it, but then it broke the entire app. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you're gonna go over this, but is there a way to fix the code? Like, is there like?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you go to, if you have that that ability to code, you can go into a console or the shell, and it gives you, that's a cool thing about Replit, you can see the shell, you can see the app structure, and I can pull it up later on so you can see.
I know why it's doing that, because all the apps, let's say you go to any of the apps, the plus button is over there on the bottom, it's always say that's the UI, that's the UX UI thing.
It is but it's a problem, it's not optimal. It's not
I know,
optimal, especially when it's.
I didn't say it's optimal, I said that's why it's doing that.
And maybe if I didn't have a map, it would have been okay. But the fact that I had a map, and then the controls of the map were there,
Yeah, that's a problem.
then it's like, what am I touching there? So I very quickly